So let's talk about specifically the Equal Rights Amendment and how the Constitution does or doesn't protect women.
One way, for example, the law is failing us right now has to do particularly with the failure of the laws to address what is really an epidemic of violence against women in this country. 3 women are murdered every day in this country by a male partner. Our laws, our policing, our court systems still don't adequately address that. The number's actually going up, not down. And if we had an Equal Rights Amendment, it would be possible to pass laws that say, clearly, this is discrimination on the basis of sex, because if you as a woman can't live in this country without fearing for your safety, then that is discrimination on the basis of sex.
How would the ERA rectify that, Heidi?
You know the case of Jessica Lanahan, Jessica Gonzalez, who in 2005 took her case to the Supreme Court. She had a restraining order against her violent husband. He violated the restraining order, kidnapped their daughters. She contacted the police many times, 9 times, I believe, went to the station twice in person. They laughed at her, told her she was being silly, refused to enforce the restraining order. And her husband that night killed their daughters.
The emptiness I feel when I remember my daughters and the great lives they might have lived. Nothing can bring them back.
She sued the police department for failing to protect them, for failing to enforce this restraining order. And in fact, Colorado had just passed a law that required police to enforce these restraining orders. The police department appealed. The case went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court decided that the police department could not be held accountable, even though there was a state law saying that they could. So if we had an Equal Rights Amendment, then the Supreme Court would have to say that the Constitution of the United States prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex, and what this police department was doing was discrimination on the basis of sex. They were not listening to a woman. They were dismissing her. They were calling her ridiculous.
I want to know why the police ignored my calls for help.
They didn't have an understanding of what circumstances are like for women in violent relationships. So it would, I think, in her case, have allowed the law to stand, for one thing, and it would have provided a way for people to take action on a state level, to say, like, let's address this problem of sexism in police departments. Like, let's address the fact that these cases are often misunderstood and therefore bad policing happens.
You're pregnant with twins.
I am pregnant with twins,
You're
yes.
due this spring,
Yes.
which is so exciting.
Thank you.
So do you feel an even greater sense of urgency to usher in some of these changes that many women have been waiting for so long?
Yes, I do. So I'm pregnant with girls, and I felt a sense of urgency already, but I really want them to be born into a world, or to grow up in a world in which they know they are valued by their country, by the legal system, by the culture. I want them to be able to open a constitution and look and see that they're protected